Historical archives are often treated as the final word on the past, the ultimate source of absolute truth. We imagine endless, sterile shelves holding the cold, hard records of exactly what happened and exactly who existed. When cultural historian Saidiya Hartman set out to uncover the intimate lives of young Black women living in northern cities at the turn of the 20th century, she ran into a problem. The official historical record was completely silent on their actual humanity. Their hopes, their private thoughts, and their everyday joys never made it onto the page. For a researcher looking for documentary evidence of a lived life, this is a brick wall. This absence of data exposes a failure in the system of record-keeping. The people building the archives simply decided these lives were not worth recording as fully realized human beings. Instead of a neutral repository, scholars like Akili Mbembe describe this kind of archive as a sepulcher, a tomb that actively buries the truth rather than preserving it. When marginalized people do appear in these aging stacks of paper, it is through the lens of violence. They are recorded as criminals, as captives, or as property values on a ledger. Because of this built-in bias, the so-called objective facts stored in these files are state-sponsored fictions, written by authorities specifically to justify the systemic oppression of the people they were documenting. When the official facts are a lie written by the victor, relying solely on them ensures the actual truth remains permanently buried. Saidiya Hartman developed critical fabulation to read against the grain of official archives. It uses disciplined speculation to reconstruct what could have been, operating within surviving fragments. Relying on narrative restraint, it amplifies the impossibility of a complete story, rather than forcing a neat ending. To do this ethically, writers employ specific literary tools. The reader must always know exactly when the text is leaving the facts of shared reality and entering a speculative space. By treating imagination as an investigative tool, critical fabulation counters the state's fiction while preserving the integrity of the writer. One of those specific tools is called split toning. This is when a writer noticeably shifts their narrative voice, changing their language or syntax to signal a veer from factual reporting into imagination. Another is the subjunctive mood. The writer moves away from definitive statements of what was and instead uses expansive questions and hypotheticals, words like perhaps, words like maybe, and what if. We can see why these tools are necessary by looking at this open ledger. This 19th century police magistrate's docket was used specifically to criminalize young Black women. A fabulist reads between these rigid handwritten lines, searching for the shadow archive, the unrecorded life, desires, and experiences existing outside this charge. By changing grammar from absolute statements to speculative questions, the writer recovers a sense of the human complexity that the official ledger tried to erase. Close narrating a subject's internal life highlights their everyday joys, relationships, and radical thoughts. While early sociologists documented these environments as slums, internally they were active sites of social revolution. Imagining these moments recovers the rich, defiant lives existing beyond systemic subjugation. Restoring this undocumented beauty unsettles the authority of the oppressor's narrative, reclaiming the historical landscape for the people who actually lived there. This highlights the difference between absolute and relative truth. The archive falsely claims to hold absolute truth, which shrinks into a rigid fragment, but speculation uncovers relative truth, the expansive human experience, using imagination to understand history that raw data cannot. Stories shape power. The way history is told dictates who speaks, who is silenced, and what is accepted as truth. When history is a weapon wielded by the winners, sometimes the only way to tell the truest story is to fabulate it.